The playoffs are here, and you can predict the action all the way to the finals with FanDuel Predicts. Predict the spread, the total points, and even the game-winning moments that make the playoffs. Sign up and get a $25 bonus with FanDuel Predicts.
Offered by FanDuel Prediction Markets, LLC, a registered futures commission merchant. 18-plus bonus is non-withdrawable and expires 7 days after receipt. Trading derivatives involves significant risk and may not be suitable for all investors. Manage your activity with their consumer protection tools. Restrictions apply. See terms at FanDuel.com/predicts/bonus-offer-terms.
Katz and Cosby
On the Red Apple Podcast Network.
Breaking news, WABC.
Well, there's a lot of breaking news. The governor has signed the agreement in Albany, Governor Hochul. And in the studio with us, we have Judge Richard Weinberg, New York State GOP chairman. We have Ed Cox, and we have Governor David Paterson. And what's a better time than now to discuss what's in that budget? We all live in New York City. So tell us, who's going to start? Ed Cox, you're the chairman.
It's a record budget, $269 billion, and has gone up over the last 5 years of Hochul's reign as governor at twice the rate of inflation. That's why it's
well, I know that the real estate
this
industry.
Is a budget we cannot
the
afford.
real estate industry is up in arms.
Yeah, the second home tax too.
And the pied-à-terre tax. The real estate industry is up in arms. There was another thing that he did today with sanctuary cities.
Yeah, this is the biggie. Let's do breaking news on that.
Breaking news, WABC.
And joining us now on Katz and Cosby, we'll have in a few moments Lara Trump on this and a whole bunch more. She had a big interview with her father-in-law, President Trump. But first off, John, as you were talking about, with what's going on with Kathy Hochul, the sanctuary city law that she just passed, John, I couldn't believe it. She is taking aim at federal agents big time, saying, first of all, there should be no cooperation essentially between local and federal agents. That's obviously stepping in. And she's also saying, Ed, that the Trump administration, she said, has overreached. They've basically harassed so much the streets of New York. That's the word she used. And then the other thing, this to me was really even just as troubling. She came out and she essentially said that there will be no masks on federal agents in New York State. And if somebody has a problem with that, then guess what? You'll have to report it to the Attorney General of the United States.
And a federal judge will have a problem with that.
Wait, let's tell the truth. Is she playing the violin to her own people on something that's never going to pass?
Well, that's the big question, John. What do you think, Judge? Yeah, Judge.
Three lawyers.
Right. So let's start with Judge Weinberg, who wants to talk.
Thank you. Let's back up. It's passed. It's signed. It's the law.
No,
exactly.
No, you're not getting me. You're not getting me. I'm saying is something that's not going to hold up.
Oh.
Is it going to hold up?
Oh, it's not going to.
Or is she just playing the violin to her voices?
Okay, the short answer is it will not hold up a constitutional challenge. There's something called the Supremacy Clause of the United States. The state governments cannot control federal law enforcement. The idea of putting a mask is absolutely ridiculous. She's turning it over. She's going to have the state attorney general enforce against federal officers. They'll throw that out. That's perfectly ridiculous. Also, this bill also created a cause of action so that people who feel they've been victimized under this new law can sue federal officers. So now it becomes a cottage industry for lawyers to try to chase down officials of ICE and other federal law enforcement.
What is the truth is?
The truth is the bad law never should have passed.
And it's not going to hold up.
It should never hold up. You're
but she's
right.
playing the violin to her supporters.
Exactly right, John.
But now I have a question.
Patterson.
Hey, Governor, I have a question on this. This is all about no masks on federal law enforcement. What is the deal with no masks on the protesters? Right? I mean, I'm sorry. Am I missing something here? They're ready to report law enforcement for wearing a mask. But what about no masks on protesters? I didn't hear her talk about that.
That's probably one that would be actually constitutional.
Right. Isn't that an interesting? I mean, it's an interesting paradox. Go ahead, Gov.
Well, I think that in a situation like this, I was really surprised that they want to go as far as they're going, because it's pretty much understood that the state government doesn't succeed the federal government in these types of actions. And back many years ago in the 60s, when the southern states were rebelling against the Union and President Johnson, they went right ahead and passed the civil rights legislation. The southern states tried to shut it down. It didn't work. And it won't work here.
Exactly right, Governor.
Yeah, frightening situation. Now, the other big story, you guys, we're waiting to hear what President Trump says from the Situation Room. He's been meeting all day with his National Security Council.
Is he there now?
He's still meeting, and we have not heard yet if he has agreed. We're hearing some of the tenets of it.
Breaking news, you know who hears about it first?
We do.
On WABC, our listeners always hear it first.
Absolutely.
And Worldwide News Network that we subscribe to.
Yeah, and that we're the helm of. Right? We're the helm of it, not just subscribing to it. We're the helm.
Just because we own it.
Minor detail.
To it too, right?
Yeah.
But look, this is for the whole world, and it's syndicated, so we can't say it's the WABC network.
Right. We'll just say it's for the whole world. Helm
we
here.
also have another special guest in the studio.
By the way, do we ever?
On Sunday is the Israeli Day Parade. Now, he's been chairman, he's been grand marshal, he's funded the place all the time. And we have Harley Lipman, who our kids went to school together at Hewitt, was it? And he's going to tell us about the Israeli Day Parade that's going to march up Fifth Avenue on Sunday. Harley Lipman in the studio live with us. Give us a report.
Okay. Thank you, John. Thank you for having me here, and greetings to everyone. This is the biggest expression of pride and support for Israel outside of Israel throughout the world. It's not a political event. It's at a particularly poignant moment of extreme anti-Semitism in the United States and around the world, where Jews are being attacked and feel very threatened. And it's, of course, profoundly disappointing that the mayor has decided not to march in the Israel Day Parade. He made a comment that it's because he's against the policies of the Israeli government, but that's not correct. That's a lie, because many mayors have marched that didn't agree with the policies of the Israeli government. He doesn't agree that there should be an Israeli government is a real reason why he's not marching, because he doesn't believe the Jewish people have a right to their own homeland in the Middle East.
Yeah. Harley, just a friend of mine, a Puerto Rican friend of mine, I just got a report from before.
Yes, who was saying that he's not marching in the Puerto Rican Day Parade and doesn't want to participate in that.
Has that from anybody?
Right, which is bizarre on that one.
Well, I'll give you the exact, hold on, the exact things. Well, Rita, you're a better reader than me. What does he exactly say?
Well, here's what the friend says, that Mayor Mondani is not opening up Gracie Mansion for the Puerto Rican celebration that's been celebrated for over 30 years. The Puerto Rican Bar Association, NYPD, Hispanic Society, and others are organizing one. So, in other words, he's, for some reason, I wonder, Harley, I'm just going to say it. I mean, I said, because he's not going to the Israel, so he can say, well, I didn't go to the Puerto Rican Day one, too. I mean, it's a little odd.
He's making a lot of friends this way.
Yeah, he's making a lot of friends
this way. No, I
this
don't
way.
understand it. I was on Fox Business this morning, and you know what I said? The mayor of the city of New York should be putting all the people together. I don't care if you're Asian. I don't care if you're Hispanic. I don't care if you're Martian. You should put people together instead of breaking them apart. What do you say, Harley?
It goes without saying. He's not a unifying mayor. He's a divisive mayor. I mean, just think, if I have my information correct, that his wife was supporting what happened on October 7th in Israel.
Yeah,
she made statements to that effect.
She made statements. She liked tweets. And then when he was asked about it, he said she's a, quote, private citizen. He wouldn't even say this is despicable.
But let's be clear as to what that actually is. On October 7th, young Jewish women were raped in a way where Hamas was instructed to prolong the pain, physical as much as possible. So they weren't only gang raped. As it was happening, they were being stabbed repeatedly by small knives to inflict pain as long as possible. Grandparents in wheelchairs were set on fire in front of their children and grandchildren. Not even Nazi Germany did that.
It's horrific.
I'm not minimizing the crimes of Hitler and Nazi Germany,
horrific.
of course. but they just wanted extermination as quickly as possible was the German policy. Hamas and what happened on October 7th was extermination as slowly as possible to inflict as much pain, which shows you how I've never seen a level of that ever in Jewish history. Even with all kinds of massacres and murders, I don't think there's anything that could compare with the level of savagery and torture that took place. So it really just, it's such a profound statement, and it's such a frightening thing that the mayor's wife saying that he doesn't condemn it. It's frightening. And you know what it says today? We are in the 1930s. This is the new fascism. This is anti-Semitism. For people who grew up after World War II, you may have wondered what you would have done or what it was like. Now you know. You're living in a world that is not very different from the world that Jews lived in the 1930s.
You know, Harley Lipman, head of the Israeli Day Parade, I want to read, I was watching the press conference when Mayor Mamdani came out, and it's interesting because Jessica Tisch, the NYPD commissioner, is one of the honorary grand marshals. She said she's going, she's Jewish. And then 2 feet away is Zoran Mamdani, and his direct quote, I'm reading it here, says, "I've made my views clear." It was like defiant. It really shocked me, and there was no gray with him. So what's your message to the mayor?
That we're going to do everything to defeat you the next time. That, you know, it's a shame that you are an anti-Semite. You may deny it and say you're against Israel's policies, you're against Zionism, but there are 23 Arab nations. There are 54 Muslim-dominated nations in the world. Israel makes up a fraction of a fraction of a fraction of 1% of the land in that part of the world, in the Arab-Muslim sea of countries, and that you can't accept that the Jewish people have a right to their home, to one little country of their own, is just speaks to what kind of awful human being you are.
Sounds right to me.
Harley Lipman, thank you so far. And I understand that Lara Trump is on the phone. Let's take Lara.
And joining us now here is Lara Trump, the host of My View with Lara Trump. And Lara, you have, I think, the biggest interview in the world on Saturday night. Tell us about it because, boy, it's timely.
It's a big one. Yep. I sat down, of course, with the 47th President Donald J. Trump, this week at the White House. And you're right. It's very timely. We talk a lot about Iran, about, kind of where his lines are, what would constitute military action to be on the offensive and not the defensive for the United States. And midterms, we talk about the giants. We talk about a whole host of things. And then we go out to the ballroom where he gives us an exclusive sneak peek at all the happenings in the ballroom. And the currently they're building the UFC arena for the upcoming UFC fight at the White House. So we covered a lot of ground, but it was an exciting interview, and it's an exciting time.
It definitely is. You know, Laura, as we're waiting, obviously, to hear more about Iran, what did he reveal to you of sort of his mindset? What's been amazing, I think, is, first of all, how courageous has your father-in-law, the president, been to go into Iran? And it was chilling to me this week to hear him say in the cabinet meeting that had they not struck with those V-2 bombers last June, they were 2 weeks away, he was saying, from a nuclear weapon. I mean, the stakes couldn't be higher, and the guts of your father-in-law, I think, couldn't be higher.
Yeah, and one of the things we talked about was the fact that I don't think he gets enough credit, Rita, for the fact that he is willing to do the hard things. He's willing to do the necessary things, despite the fact that maybe they are not most politically advantageous for him. I said to him, I'm sure if you planned this, you would never have planned to have a conflict with Iran right in front of midterm elections. This isn't the most opportune time for it, but it is the right time for it, and it is the necessary time for it. And whether we're talking about that, whether we're talking about moving the American embassy in Israel to Jerusalem, like so many presidents before him said they would do, whether we're talking about taking out someone like Nicolas Maduro, bringing him here to the United States to face justice for his crimes against our people, this president goes out of his way every single time to do what's right. And I think he deserves a lot of credit for that. And it is terrifying to think, had we not executed Operation Midnight Hammer last year to ensure that at least at that moment they stopped their development of nuclear weapons, who knows what could have happened. And you think about the fact that we could have had a different person in that White House, that Kamala Harris, who the Democrats were running, could have been the president of the United States. Think about how different this situation may be right now and how dangerous our world would be. But we have a president who's looking out and putting America first, who is ensuring that we have the strongest, most robust military to handle situations like this. And the best news of all probably is that he is the best negotiator you could ever ask for. And that's exactly what we need. And I do think at the end of this, he said, I want a good deal or no deal at all. He's going to make sure that we have a great deal, that Iran cannot develop a nuclear weapon, they cannot purchase a nuclear weapon, and that the Strait of Hormuz is reopened. And with those three things, I think we're going to see a lot of forward progress, not just for our country, but for the Middle East and the entire world. So thank God we have President Donald J. Trump in the White House right now.
Yeah, thank goodness, given the stakes, as you just said, they can't be higher. Well, what do you say to the Democrats, Lara Trump, when you hear they don't even know even the deal points, if potentially where it's going or where it's not going? First, when he goes in, they have a problem with it. Then when there's a ceasefire, they have a problem. And today I was listening to Senator Cory Booker, and he was saying, it's shameful. He feels like it was a waste. What do you say to the Democrats who it's no matter what he does? I feel like he could walk on water and they'd have a problem with it.
Yeah, the president actually talks about this in our interview, and he said, look, I can make the greatest deal in the world, and they would find an issue with it. They would complain about it. They would say it's not good enough. But we have to acknowledge the fact that no one else could have brought us to this point. And when you look at the Democrats, and people need to ask themselves, what have these people actually contributed in any positive way to our country? Talk about being ashamed. They ought to be ashamed of themselves for disguising the way Joe Biden had no business being president of the United States. They pushed him down everybody's throats. They said he's fine, he's sharp as a tack, until the jig was up, and we all saw. Now we see Jill Biden herself said that she knew he had cognitive issues. She knew there were problems with him, but they were willing to run a candidate like that until the jig was up. And then they shoved Kamala Harris down all of our throats. And they have not done anything positive for the American people. Their policies are terrible. They want to take the country in the wrong direction, and they are anti-common sense on every issue. So that is the shameful nature of who they truly are. And this president has been able to expose it. So you're right. It doesn't matter what this man does, just because he is who he is. They will always go against it. And sadly, with that, they're going against the United States of America. We should all come together in this moment and feel good about the fact that we are going to defeat a country and a radical ideology who chant death to America. We do not want these people to have a nuclear weapon. This president will ensure that. And even the Democrats, the Trump haters and the Trump derangement syndrome individuals out there should be able to acknowledge that that's positive.
And Lara, before I let you go, I'm sure you've been watching these wild, crazy scenes outside of the Newark ICE facility. And today there was also a law that was passed in New York by Governor Kathy Hochul saying limited ICE, local involvement with ICE, also a mask ban. And then you've got the governor of New Jersey outside the facility in Newark, saying, this is terrible. Let's open up the facility when there's some really violent criminals inside that are illegal. They're complaining about food. What goes through your mind, and what goes through your father-in-law's mind, the president?
Yeah, I mean, look, this is exactly what we were just talking about, right? This is a group of people in the Democrats that have consistently put America last and the American people last. And here you have them outside of a detention facility with, to your point, Rita, murderers, child predators, rapists, really sick individuals who none of us want on our streets. They're advocating for those people to be back out on our streets and among our communities in the United States. It is outrageous, but they have shown us exactly who they are. And you have to ask yourself at a certain point, how many more Sheridan Gormans, who was killed in Chicago by an illegal alien, do we need to have? How many more Laken Rileys do we need to have? Jocelyn Nungary's do we need to have before the Democrats start to realize that the American people see them for exactly who they are? When you are advocating for the worst of the worst, for people who not only have broken our laws to come here, but then have committed violent crimes on top of that, you really need to check yourself. And so I think we all think that. I think the president thinks that. I consistently wonder what is wrong with these individuals. But they're showing us exactly who they are, and they're showing us how none of their policies go to benefit our country. They are against common sense. They are against safety and security. And they're against, at this point, our laws here in the United States of America. So their performative display out in front of this ICE facility is just about all they have to offer, because they have offered zero solutions or anything that is going to make anyone's life in this country better. And the American people are onto them.
Yeah, it's just sheer lunacy. Well, Laura, I can't wait to watch your interview tomorrow night. The whole country's going to be watching. It's the biggie, and it couldn't be just more perfectly timed on so many levels. I can't wait to see what he says about the ballroom, too. Laura, we love having you on, and have a great weekend. And we'll all be tuning in tomorrow to My View with Lara Trump, 9 o'clock on Fox.
I'll see you there. Thanks, Rita.
Thank you, Laura.
And great conversation there with Lara Trump. You know, Harley Lipman with the Israel Day Parade, as we're sitting here talking, obviously the big issue is what is Trump going to do and the timetable. Judge Weinberg, your thoughts on what you think he needs to do?
What he needs to do is recognize that this is a one-in-a-lifetime opportunity to take care of this dangerous state that's dedicated to the destruction of Israel, Europe, United States, and Western civilization. And he has to rise to the occasion.
Yeah, Harley, what do you think in terms of this moment?
Well, I do think that he's very wise in trying to have an interim deal. He needs to bring down the price of gas. You need to open up the Strait of Hormuz because there's a risk of a worldwide recession. And he is mindful of the midterm elections, which is understandable. So if that's his strategy, and this is a somewhat of a temporary agreement or a first agreement, that's fine. But after that, this is a unique opportunity. No American president has ever had as much leverage over Iran as Trump does now. And it would be a shame if he squandered it.
Yeah, that's a powerful point. Gov Patterson, what do you think in terms of this moment? And we're waiting to see what President Trump does.
I think this is the last time that he can do it, because we've been hearing that Iran doesn't have any artillery, or we destroyed everything. And we've been hearing it for 9 weeks now. So I think that if he was waiting for an opportune moment, that opportune moment has to come in the next 1 to 3 weeks, or we're just going to have a summer of inactivity, and it's not going to help him or really anyone else.
Yeah, we got to see where it goes. It's who knows with President Trump. Remember, as we were talking earlier, Harley, that they were saying that he was about an hour away. Remember, it was like a week ago from essentially doing a strike. He even said that. He said, I was about to do it. I held back. So you never know with President Trump. You wonder, is he also making them feel a little complacent to a deal, and then feels if they don't abide by it, or if it's not the perfect deal, then who knows what he'll do. Ed Cox.
It's not really a deal yet. This is just negotiations, and there has to be some sort of kinetic action in order to get a deal. And the sooner that happens, the better.
Harley.
You know, one, like in anything, has to think of consequences. Hamas, which had been moving along, difficult, but moving along, is now pulling back. They're looking east. They see Iran is prevailing. You have Russia that is already testing NATO, attacked a NATO nation, Romania, and they'll continue to test it. And you have China looking at Taiwan. And perception, unfortunately, is bigger than reality. Iran believes they won. And with this kind of deal we're looking at, it could look like it. They're getting everything, especially economic aid, if that is truly part of the package. So the problem is that if Trump doesn't have a clear victory in this, you could lay the groundworks for what could be a catastrophic World War III.
We'll see where it goes. The stakes couldn't be higher, as you talk about, Harley. We're going to take a break, you guys, and we're going to find out what Victoria Coates, former Trump Deputy National Security Advisor, thinks about all this.
Katz and Cosby.
On the Red Apple Podcast Network.
Katz and Cosby. Entertaining and informative.
On the Red Apple Podcast Network.
And what will President Trump do with Iran? He was in the Situation Room. So far, he has not made an announcement. There's a whole bunch of different reports kind of trickling out that there may be something tied to opening up the Strait of Hormuz. Trump also suggesting that it would be the U.S. who would get the nuclear dust, but it's still unclear. And the stakes, John, couldn't be higher. And joining us now, we have Victoria Coates, one of our favorites, John.
Victoria Coates, she knows where all the bodies are buried.
Yeah, that's what we love about it. That's a good thing, right, Ed?
You bet.
All right. Well, let's go to the expert on where the bodies are buried. Victoria Coates, former Deputy National Security Advisor under President Trump. Victoria, what do you think he's going to do? I mean, the whole world's like on pins and needles. He had a big meeting with the Situation Room folks, all the national security team in there, and still everyone's waiting. They were thinking he might make an announcement.
Well, he certainly will when he's good and ready, Rita. And, great to be with all of you. And we have to wait and see what's in the details. I'm just going through X. Everybody thinks they know what's in the deal. Guess what? They don't. New York Times doesn't know. I don't know. The president knows what he's willing to accept. And, all of these different things are being tossed around. I did think his post from early this afternoon was pretty black and white. These are my terms. No nuclear dust, open the strait, no money changes hands till you guys do stuff. And, that is the way to treat them. It's the opposite of the Biden and Obama approach, even the George W. Bush approach to Iran. This is much, much stronger. And the other piece of this is, are they actually circling the drain economically? Secretary Bessent really opened that door yesterday, saying they have maybe 10 days of liquidity left. What's happening there? And I think that's a really interesting question as well. Will that put the necessary pressure on them to get this done?
So the other thing, I have a whole bunch of questions for you. First, on the freezing of assets. Obviously, everything with Iran has to be verified. I don't even say trust, but verify. I just say verify because I don't trust.
Distrust.
All right, right. So how do you ensure that? And even, I think a lot of people, when they even hear of any money being unfrozen, obviously Iran wants to get something out of it. I cringe when I hear that. I cringe. I think of the pallets of cash. It's different. But what do you say to Americans?
No, I think that's ill-advised. Now, there are assets that we no longer control that Joe Biden unfroze that went to Qatar. President can't control what happens with those. Now, he has a lot of influence over that. And the question is, what did we actually get if that indeed be true? And so, as I said, I want to see the whole thing. I want to take a look at what we got. I want to take a look at what is actually happening in Iran. Because, Rita, one of the issues we have is if Secretary Bessent be correct, and we're looking at 10 days of liquidity, and they do make these massive concessions to President Trump now, we could be looking at a Gorbachev process whereby Reagan essentially forced Gorbachev into concessions that eventually led to the dissolution of the Soviet Union. Very desirable outcome, what Reagan wanted to do. What happened during the Clinton administration is another question, but that was Reagan's outcome. He got to it. And so I think, chaos in Iran is not a great outcome. I don't know how well we can manage that. I think a much more orderly process would be better. But what I'd like to see is the seeds of that process baked into whatever this deal is.
Ed Cox is here.
Victoria, in order to carry on that thought, at least we have a leader here in the United States who will make a decision. Is there that kind of cohesion in government in Iran, or do you need kinetic action in order to focus their collective minds to get what we want?
That's been the question all along, Ed. I mean, the kinetic action has been targeted at precisely that outcome. So hopefully somebody is calling the shots. We're seeing a lot of sniping between President Pezeshkian and the IRGC. The IRGC seems to have crept out of their boxes earlier this week with those missile launches and trying to lay some mines. The United States responded very forcefully. They haven't tried again. So maybe we do have a decision maker here who can sign this deal, start to implement its terms, and then we'll see. And the other thing we've had since I talked to you guys is results from this opening up of the internet. We're starting to get more and more internet access to the Iranian people. We're starting to hear about what's actually going on inside of the country. It's terrible. 3 million jobs gone, among other things. And so the people are extremely unhappy and wanting to start to work toward the kinds of changes that we all want to see in Iran. But the Iranian people also don't want a chaotic meltdown.
Yeah, and they're also not armed. I mean, that's the other thing too, which is really, Trump even sort of expressed anger with the Kurds publicly, saying, we were hoping they were going to give some weapons to the brave Iranians, and they didn't get it. So they're sitting there waiting.
Well, and that's the thing is, the Kurds have been really good allies to the United States in the Kurdish region of Iran. We have a lot of experience there. But what the Kurds don't want to be are the only people creating revolution in Iran. That's not going to be broadly popular. And they're talented fighters, so they could probably fight their way to Tehran, but then they'd turn around and there'd no one to support them. And that would be a problem. So I do think we need to look at other diasporas in Iran, as well as the Persians, the Azeris, Azerbaijan, neighboring Azerbaijan. That's the biggest ethnic group besides the Persians in Iran. I think we would need a more comprehensive strategy to talk to not just the Kurds, also the Azeris, the Baluch, and see if we can get more consensus from them.
Yeah, that is a good point. I mean, we'll see where it goes. What's your sense of what the next 24, 48 hours is going to bring? I also wonder, Victoria, and I know that's a $64 million question, but John said, you know where the bodies are buried. But what do where do you see it going? Is there a chance? And I wonder, because Trump is the master of deals and sort of the master of deflection. Just when people suddenly out of the blue is like, oh, whoa, he went in there and he bombed those 3 sites in June. Oh, whoa, he went in and he did this. Is there a chance that it could be, well, let's see where the deal is. He's already maybe even made up his mind. The deal's not perfect. He said he won't accept anything short of it. And maybe kinetic action happens very soon.
Oh, it could. I think I do think it's going to be in the next 24 hours. He's going to go in one path or the other. Obviously giving diplomacy every chance, making his lines clear. That's what that post was today. Here's the deal, guys. Take it or leave it. If they leave it, then I know there is a plan to clear the strait. It is difficult. I would prefer not to have to do that, but our military can. So if that's where we have to go, that's where we have to go. And I think that's where you'll see.
He's one tough president.
Oh.
I would bet on him anytime. The art of the deal. He knows what has to be done. He realizes all the problems on the left, all the problems on the right, and the Israeli problems because they have their own agenda, and I understand that. But we got to do what's right for the United States of America.
Judge Weinberg.
100%, John.
I just have trouble respectfully with John's comment about the Israelis have their own agenda. Yes, the Israelis.
Netanyahu has his own agenda.
Well, of course, yeah, he also has
that's his right. That is his right. Okay. He is the CEO of Israel, and he wants to do what he wants to do, right? And nothing wrong with that.
Okay, but the interests are coextensive since Israel is facing an existential threat, and as soon as Israel is knocked out of the box, the United States and Western civilization lose all the technological advantage, all the intelligence advantage, all the bodies that fight to protect Western civilization. I don't see a divergence. I don't see a divergence of interests here.
And it would take a long time to recapture where we are now if that happens.
Yeah, it is a moment.
So I don't think there's a divergence. All I'm respectfully submitting is I don't see a divergence between the interests of the Israelis and the United States at this time.
It comes.
A key question in the situation.
I don't disagree. Look, Israel is our ally, and I'm pro-Israel. But right now, if we lose the elections in November, guess what? Israel loses too.
I agree with that.
Yeah, sadly, I agree too. I agree with that.
Ed Cox?
Get down to the ground here. A key question in the Situation Room: can the military actually open the straits? If they can do that, kinetic action.
Yeah, Victoria?
If they can't, it's another question.
The answer to that question, Ed, is yes.
That's what will come out of the Situation Room.
I don't think we're going to publish the war plan for that, but we can.
Right.
Yeah, John, what are your thoughts?
Don't forget, you're dealing with possibly some supersonic missiles that are coming at you so fast, not even our best carriers or our best destroyers can prevent it. And if something happens to one of those destroyers or aircraft carriers, then you have World War III.
Yeah, that is a mess.
If that's the situation, then we never should have gone into the war with Iran.
No, you're in there now. You're in there, and it is what it is.
I agree with you if they had that, but that should have been the decision made, and I'm sure it was.
Last word for Victoria Coates.
Okay. If they had that, they would have used it. And, there's always a lucky shot from the bad guys, but they have fired off pretty much what they have. And so I don't think that is as much of a concern. But I do think we'll see what happens in the next 24 hours. Hopefully, I will get to reconvene with
hour by hour.
people
Victoria
next week.
Coates, we love you.
Yeah, Victoria, keep us posted.
Keep us posted.
Will
And
do.
Rita's on between 10 and 12. Anything happens at that point, call her.
Yeah, any bodies unburied, make sure you call me.
If you find any
You're on
bodies.
speed dial.
Thank you so much.
Thanks, Victoria.
And Rita, we have the hot news of the day, sponsored by Goya Foods. I love their Goya beans with the Goya extra virgin olive oil.
Wow, Ed, you and I look at each other. He's like Julia Childs. He is great.
Yum.
I know, yum, yum, yum. And here are the headlines.
It's the top news of the day. Here's Rita Cosby.
Well, as we have been talking about, President Trump has yet to reach a decision on a possible deal with Iran. The New York Times says a major sticking point for Trump includes, as Victoria was saying, a request by Iran of freeing up Iranian assets that the U.S. has frozen, and of course the opening of the Strait of Hormuz and the nuclear dust. There's a lot of big issues that's straight. So we will keep you posted. The other big story, this is interesting. A federal judge is blocking President Trump from renaming the Kennedy Center and closing it for renovations for now. Today, the federal judge ruled the center to be named for President Kennedy, adding that Congress gave the Kennedy Center its name and only Congress can change this. And John, get this, because I know you want to comment on this. The judge also temporarily blocked the center from being closed for 2 years for renovations. So a judge is stepping in saying you can't name it and you can't even renovate it. What do you make of that?
Point, and I go to the lawyers in this group. We got a lot of lawyers in this room. Is at what point does the Supreme Court or the Congress step in and say enough is enough with federal judges trying to run our country?
I mean, come on. He can't even do renovations, Ed? That's ridiculous. Come on. Your thoughts?
Yeah, depends what the legislation covers. But I bet the legislation does not say you can't do renovation.
Right. I mean, this is crazy. We're going to have much more after the break. We're going to talk to Shar Portanesh, the first Iranian in the NFL. And he's going to talk, of course, about Iran with Harley and everybody else in the studio. And he also has a pulse on the big races in California. Huge primaries next week.
Katz and Cosby
on the Red Apple Podcast Network.
Katz and Cosby, entertaining and informative
on the Red Apple Podcast Network.
And we are back here on Katz and Cosby. So first of all, we have a next guest can talk about Iran, Israel, so much more. And also, John, because he's the first Iranian to play in the NFL, but he also has his pulse on California. And there's some big races there.
Before we go to Iran, let's go to California
Do we
first.
have a California song?
California, here I go.
Oh, here I go.
Here I leave.
Yeah, here I leave. You're right. Here I run. How about Here I Run?
Oh, my God.
Oh, my God. Well, let's go to Shar Portanesh, who is there in California. Shar, so fill us in on these races. You have some huge ones. You got some primaries next week, the mayor's race and the governor's. Fill us in.
Hi, John and Rita, and thank you so much for having me on. Yeah, it was turned out to be a great race because I don't know if your listeners know about how California runs the governor's race. It's a single primary with all candidates, regardless of political affiliation, all run together. So you could basically have, and then the top two vote getters go into a finals run, and it could be two Democrats, it could be two Republicans, it could be one of each. So. Initially, we had, Tom Steyer, we had Swalwell, who went down in disgrace, but that was about, if you would have spoken to me about 3 months ago, it would have looked like that those guys would have basically taken votes away from each other. And as a Republican, we were very hopeful that we could possibly get two Republicans past the primaries, but now things have changed a little bit.
So what's your gut feeling? All we're asking is opinion and gut.
My gut feeling is that Steve Hilton is going to make a very strong running. I mean, like that's
so
maybe
he'll be one of the witnesses. You think?
I believe so, and I think it was Xavier Becerra, who former U.S. Health Secretary. He's bypassed Tom Steyer. And then, you had Katie Porter, who's an absolute god-awful human being. I don't know if you guys remember that.
Yeah, screaming at her assistant, right.
Yeah. So, it's so my gut is that the Democrats are going to basically cannibalize themselves to where you're going to get at least one Republican in there. And I do believe it'll be Steve Hilton and Xavier Becerra.
It's interesting. Did you see this? I was watching a clip of Xavier Becerra just a little bit ago, and he was pushing for non-citizens to vote. He was also saying that non-citizens should have health care. I mean, it's like it couldn't be further from Steve Hilton. I mean, it's totally two different directions.
Yeah, and you know what? California is just an absolute mess. I mean, I know you guys got your own problems in New York, especially New York City with your mayor, but California is an absolute mess. The cost of living here, and I'm not talking about like high cost of living in downtown LA. I'm talking about in the suburbs. It's just ridiculous. People cannot afford to stay in California. And for the first time, we had a negative population growth in California, even though we have so many foreigners coming in. So people are leaving California by the thousands and tens of thousands. And affordability, cost of living is a huge issue. And honestly, I think this is a referendum. This election is going to be a referendum on the cost of living and homelessness because, you can't just throw money at issues and expect it to get solved. And at the end of the day, we don't judge the government by their intentions. We judge governments by their results, and the results in California have just been horrible, absolutely horrible.
Judge Weinberg?
Sure, good to talk to you again. Please tell us about what you expect in the Los Angeles mayor's race, because that seems to be a very tight race.
That's a disaster. I don't know if you guys are familiar with the fires and what happened with the fires. About a year and a half ago, and their inability and the lack of funding and all the different things. You have a city that could rank in the top 50 or 100 nations in terms of GDP that basically can't supply basic services to its people. There are areas in LA where the police don't want to go in and refuse to patrol. So LA is just an absolute mess. And the only thing I can tell you about LA is thank God I don't live in it. And it's horrible. Homeless, you drive by there, you have homeless encampments everywhere. And with the homeless encampment, it comes crime, drugs, violent crimes, sexual crimes, things like that. So LA needs to just completely change. And we haven't had a good candidate in there that like a Rudy Giuliani type of who came in and cleaned up New York. We need somebody like that in there.
How is it looking in the polls? Because we were looking at the polls earlier, and it seems like it's neck and neck. I mean, it's really a margin of error. Yeah,
sure. The numbers I saw were 26% for Bass, 25% for the councilwoman, and 22% for Pratt. But with days to go.
Yeah, that's and honestly, that should tell you something about how people feel about it. Because if you're talking about the greater LA area, the voters for LA, you're talking 60, 70, 80% Democratic leaning. So that goes to show you where the thought process is behind that. It it shows, what people feel about it. Now, of course, I have, I'm looking at Pratt, so I'm hoping that would, he could do something, but who knows? Who knows? Just fingers crossed with that.
And before we let you go, Shar, give us your read on what you think is happening with Iran. We have in studio also former New York Governor David Patterson, GOP Chair Ed Cox, Judge Weinberg, obviously me and John, and we also have Harley Lipman, who's head of the Israel Day Parade. What do you think what are the people in Iran thinking? I know a lot of relatives and friends there. And what's sort of the sense of what's next as we're waiting to see if President Trump is going to reach some interim deal?
Well, before I go in depth with that, any kind of a deal with this regime is going to be a victory for this regime. They're going to, you guys understand that when there was a ceasefire, they started celebrating and they said, we took U.S.'s greatest shot and we're still here. Any kind of a deal you're going to make with this regime is going to look like almost like a deal that's, Vietnam, kind of like a lost the way it was for Vietnam. And the question that I have for all the experts in here, what is the mechanism of enforcement of any kind of a deal that we're going to have in place? Well, yeah. We have three aircraft carriers in there right now. We have all of our forces in there right now. I got news for you guys. Iran is a lot closer to the Strait of Hormuz than the forces of the United States. So somebody explain to me, what is the mechanism of enforcement of any kind of a deal that we reach with this government that we can't trust as far as we can throw them?
No, that's a powerful comment. Judge Weinberg, your thoughts? I mean, really, that is the issue.
I'm with Shar.
Yeah, you can't trust it. We don't even, by the way, we don't even know who's running it. Like they were saying, okay, maybe
No, you know who's running it. The Islamic Revolutionary Guard is running it. They're the ones who are running it. Well, they have the guns and they have all the industrial capacity. They own all the businesses. They're running it.
Well, and this is so funny. The other day, you guys, they put up a graphic of like the people they think are negotiating. One is the son of the Ayatollah, who's never been seen since the bombing. We don't even know if he's alive. The other is the IRGC head, and then the other is like the Speaker of the Parliament
and the president.
Yeah, you don't know, right?
Yeah. It's like, every single one of them are a bunch of criminals. It's like a mafia is running a very wealthy country, and once again, I just don't understand why we even went to the negotiating table. We've had a ceasefire for a couple of months now, and it gave them the opportunity to regroup, reorganize, restock their weapons,
and kill more Iranians, and kill their own people.
Absolutely. So it's when did the U.S. government start negotiating with terrorists? And the one thing that these strikes did for Iran, it went from a dual power to where the mullahs and was the IRGC that was controlling the government. Now it's purely the IRGC. So we basically handed the Iranian nation, the rule of the Iranian nation, to an organization that's considered a terrorist organization. And we're going to make a deal with them? To me, it would be a huge mistake. President Trump pulled us out of JCPOA because he said that President Obama gave him billions of dollars, plain full of cash, and it was a bad deal. And now he's going to do a JCPOA 2.0. It doesn't make sense to me.
Yeah, let's see where it goes. Who knows? Trump is the master of deflection. Maybe there is some kinetic activity, as we've talked about, coming soon. Who knows? Let's hope. I agree with you, Shar. Thank you, Shar, so much. Really great to have you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Shar.
Thank you so much, everyone. Have a wonderful weekend.
Keep fighting for America.
Thank you, Shar.
Okay, and
John, I know you did a big interview with Jay Clayton that's going to run this Sunday.
It's Jay Clayton is saving in New York, being the U.S. attorney for the Southern District, and we have a little bit of a clip, I understand, from Sunday's interview.
Jay Clayton, there's so many things going on. Where do you want to start?
I want to start with some good news, and I think it's good news for the people of New York. And I've been in this job for over a year now and know that the people of New York are unified on a number of things. So one of them is they want violent, gun-toting criminals off our streets. And together with the NYPD, and they're the greatest police force in the world, working hand in hand with them and with our partners at the FBI and other law enforcement agencies, we just calculated some numbers, and we have over 225 gun-toting criminals who've shot at people in the last year are either detained pending trial or are serving time in federal prison. John, that's 225 people in New York that shouldn't be on our streets, who are not on our streets. And that's thanks to the partnership.
And the bad news is, Jay, that the fact is that if they went to local district attorneys or state or whatever, they'd be in the streets again. Isn't that one of the problems we have?
Unfortunately, John, that is a fair statement. Now, it's a combination of things. It's the laws at the state are not what they should be. I know that people in Albany, I won't say people in the city of New York, but people in Albany are pushing to improve some of those laws, particularly around bail and the like. But you're right, John. We have needed to bring federal powers to this situation. And I am proud to say that in partnership with the police and in partnership with others, we've done it. It's not perfect, but crime is way down. And crime is way down, particularly in the violent area, thanks to that partnership. And I think it's what the people of New York want.
Understood. And that's what people want. And I am praying and hoping that Governor Hochul has better control over the state attorney generals that, what are the 51 districts and 51 counties in New York?
And yes, and John, you're so right. I'm hoping that people see that with this focus, and we're not talking about petty crime or petty criminals. We're talking about career offenders, people who have multiple gun arrests, multiple violent crime arrests and convictions, and focusing on those, the worst of the worst. The worst of the worst should be off the streets. And I hope that our partners in the state and our partners in the local DAs are seeing that this makes a difference. And the people of New York should say, hey, it makes a difference. Get those career gun-toting violent criminals off the streets. No one wants them on the streets, John.
Wow, very powerful discussion taking place there, John. And I can't wait to hear the whole interview this Sunday, John, on the Cats Roundtable.
Yeah, he is defending when the district attorneys don't do their jobs and that the state does not allow them to do their jobs, that on behalf of President Trump and Jay Clayton, they're doing their jobs and getting the violent criminals, drug dealers off the streets.
Federal charges.
They're not going after, to my knowledge, but they have to speak for themselves, they're not going after nannies and busboys and waiters.
Right.
All right, they're going after major criminals. So you could take that sanctuary stuff and, how do you say it?
Stick it?
Shove it.
Good point. No, and thank goodness Jay Clayton is on it, which is so great.
And let's take a break, and you can hear the rest of it on the Cats Roundtable on Saturday morning and on Sunday morning.
Sunday morning. Can't wait.
And let's take a break, and we're going to come back with Joe Concha.
Can't wait.
Katz and Cosby
on the Red Apple Podcast Network.
Katz and Cosby, entertaining and informative
on the Red Apple Podcast Network.
And we are back here on Katz and Cosby. And who better as we're leading into the weekend than Joe Concha. Joe, I know you and I were chatting earlier about all the Jill Biden stuff. Oh, my goodness. And I don't know if you saw the latest. Now she's criticizing Kamala Harris, but she's trying to make us seem that Joe was fine. He was a little off during the debate, but other than that,
I never saw him like that before.
Yeah, never saw him like that.
Or after. He was just swell all the time.
That whole time, and the rest of the time, he was William Shakespeare.
Yeah, exactly, guys. Look, it wasn't like he had a bad night during the debate, June 27, 2024. I was there, Atlanta, Georgia. And Jill Biden says, well, yeah, I've never seen this behavior from him before. This guy was shaking hands with the air when he left speeches. Didn't know how to get off the stage during speeches. Did not know that his cabinet members had names because he couldn't remember them. And most importantly, in the end, he was a guy who obviously his brain turned to mashed potatoes, literally said he had conversations with world leaders that have been dead for years. And Jill Biden tried to pitch after that debate that Joe Biden should be in office for another 4.5 years. And look, obviously she was interested in her own power. Perhaps she was running the Autopen administration, but in the end, no good wife would ever do that to her spouse, but she did. And now, obviously, this book tour is an absolute disaster before the book is even being sold at this point, guys.
Joe, you said
she wanted to be first lady. I mean, that's what bottom line is.
I think Katz also, she wanted to be kind of president because maybe she was running the country. Remember, there was one cabinet meeting where she literally was sitting at the head of the table.
I remember that.
Yeah. I think it was more than just being first lady. I think that she was probably dictating what was going on in this country, and that's a whole bowl of wrong. She wasn't elected.
Governor, I think there was some, my personal belief, there was some other orchestra leaders around him, and some of those people should be prosecuted, but we need somebody that's going to do it. Yeah, Governor Patterson.
Joe, you said that he was shaking hands with the air when he came off the stage?
Yeah. I mean, there's video for it, Governor.
Yeah.
I mean,
I remember that.
No, it sounds like something I would do.
When you've been in government for 50 years, guys, you don't know how to get off a stage, and you're shaking hands with the air and talking about how you had conversations with Francois Mitterrand. I just spoke to him, and, he thinks Trump's horrible. When Mitterrand died in 1996, I'm sorry.
How about where's Jackie? Remember the famous moment?
The Congresswoman.
Yeah, the Congresswoman who died. They named the bill after her because she died.
He just signed the bill honoring her for her life.
And then he said Jackie could just stand up.
Where's Jackie? Where's Jackie?
I agree with John. Some other people are running the show.
Yeah,
Former
exactly.
President Obama in particular.
No, good point.
Yeah.
Good point. The puppet master.
I don't want to, pretty much, go off on Biden because, he's 80-something years old, and some people age better than others, right? Like Trump clearly ages better than Biden. But it was more like the wife that was there the whole time that saw all this happening and said, you know what? Let's do another 4 because I really, really like my job. I think that's just so wrong. And spouse of the year, no. Jill Biden will never win that. That I do know.
It was elder abuse is what it was. Elder abuse.
And if she really thought, like, quote, he had a stroke or he was drugged, I didn't see that she drove him to the hospital.
She drove him to the Waffle House.
Yeah, she drove him to the Waffle House. That'll kill you. That'll kill you at 2 in the morning.
Yeah, here's some butter. Here's some syrup. Here's some carbs. There you go.
Wow.
4 more years. Oh, man. That's the last place you go.
Now we figured it all out.
But I'm fairly healthy. But so go figure.
It's funny, but if you really think about it, it's
awful.
very, very
It's awful.
serious. It's awful.
It is, and it gets you angry, too, because it's not just anybody. It's obviously you want to take care of your spouse, but it's the president of the United States. And then she came out, remember, she famously said, "Oh, you did a good job, Joe." Remember how
She answered all the questions.
Yeah, like a 2-year-old. And then told the country what a great job. That's what gets everybody angry. It's like, she obviously now knew there was something off, but, oh, no, I'll just tell the country everything's fine.
While he's standing there looking blank.
Yeah, while he's looking blank, which is just,
yeah,
what a mess.
Guys, I don't get it. I mean, they're worth like a lot of money, right? For whatever reasons you want to draw your conclusions to, but when you got beachfront property and you got another mansion elsewhere, why write this book? Why then say that, oh, I disagree with my husband as far as giving Hunter Biden a pardon? Like, why do this? Like, every Democrat in the country wants these people to go away because it's a reminder of the horrible 4 years that existed. That's why Donald Trump is back in power, outside of also obviously having the better policy decisions. But in the end, they won't go away. And I think many Democrats, I think Governor Patterson, you agree with me, like, guys, go away. Let's turn the page already.
There's a time when you just have to know it. And some people just won't let it go.
That's a nice way to say it.
What, on a Friday, TGIF, what do we all stand for?
Truth, justice, and the American way.
Yay!
The Thanks for listening to Katz and Cosby with John Katzimatidis and Rita Cosby. You can hear Katz and Cosby weekdays at 5. It's the 5 o'clock show on 77 WABC. If you like the podcast, share it with your friends and listen anytime at WABCRadio.com and download the WABC Radio app. Hit that subscribe button on all major podcast platforms. Plus, follow WABC on social on Instagram, TikTok, Facebook, and X. See you next time for a new episode so you never have to wonder.
What the heck is going on here?